Let me tell you what you're not going to hear from me. You won't hear me reduce this game to Samurai Assassin's Creed. You won't hear me talk to you like you've watched a bunch of classic samurai films, and you won't hear me refer to this as the PS4's swan song. Hi, I'm Mage, and today I'll be reviewing Ghost of Tsushima. Keep in mind I will only be covering the single player campaign and not the separate multiplayer mode. Like cowboys and pirates, samurais and ninjas are themes and settings seldom seen in the wide world of games in their natural setting. So when one does come out with great acclaim, fans of the period pieces are quick to rally behind them and soak in their romanticized fantasies. Though we have recently gotten a wave of samurai-focused games like Onimusha Remastered, Sekiro, and Nioh 2, Ghost of Tsushima sets itself apart by avoiding the supernatural adversaries and being a bit more grounded while still expressing its own flair for the dramatic. For story, the game features a samurai named Jin Sakai, while being very loosely based on the historic Mongolian invasion of Tsushima Island, where he finds himself among the last surviving samurai and embarks on a mission to reclaim his island. The island itself has been crafted to be an open-world experience with 3 major sections that unlock along the course of the 3-act story, dotted with areas of interest like villages and collectible spots. For gameplay, players will explore the island's environments, progressing the straightforward story alongside multiple side quests, and slash through hordes of enemies in third-person action. Presentation is the prime focus of the game, as experiences within traveling the island, set-piece battles, and emotional dialogue are framed to be as cinematic, immersive, and visually interesting as possible. Even the menus carry on this polish with one of the best screens on skill trees I have seen, with great formatting, informative descriptions with visual aid, and allowing the player to preview the entire tree. I really want any game with a skill tree to take note of how well done it is. I also really love an upgrade you can make to your map where any undiscovered collectibles can be found, making cleanup and completion literally a breeze. I also want to commend the effort made for accessibility, as beyond visual options and settings to adjust difficulty, you can also elect to add more aim assist to the amount already built in, simplify button inputs, or lower enemy aggression. This means a very wide amount of people, even those who may feel intimidated at any level of combat, can comfortably enjoy the game. I lastly want to shout out the option to work with controllers with stick drift, as when I tested it with one that had a very bad right stick, it compensated the dead zones and drift tolerances to such a level I did not notice any right stick drift at all. Ghost of Tsushima presents a war-torn island and its people, with scenic environments boasting vivid contrasting colors and waypoints that marry the cultural theming to in-game growth and mechanics. Visuals are one of the core pillars the game stands on, with varied and cool animations for combat, assassinations and executions often look flashy, great looking armor for both the samurai and Mongols, and while interiors are nothing great, most tents or buildings can be entered. Though there are merchants, this world has no economy, other than upgrades or cosmetics to trade flowers or supplies for. A smart design choice was to make upgrade materials you can buy very expensive, so as to nudge the player to go out into the world and gather resources themselves. Horseback will be your primary mode of transportation, but frequent bodies of water or jumps in elevation will force Jin to proceed on foot. The world is not Jin's oyster, as he cannot climb anywhere, only very specific spots, and cannot drop down a ledge grab on most surfaces. While Jin can jump, any platforming has him auto-jumping from ledge to ledge, so you don't have to worry about being too precise. This is sometimes restrictive, as you sometimes jump to a place you think you could and can get stuck, though the game is quick to reset you. The soundtrack is very enjoyable overall. In combat, music intensifies as action escalates and emphasizes beats when you fell enemies, giving you unique audio feedback marrying combat and music. As you ride, soothing background music accompanies you as you visit a variety of landscapes, from lush grasslands to foggy swamps, to scorched fields, to tall mountains, to freezing snow. Ghost of Tsushima is a surprisingly gentle and forgiving action game despite its theme of the brutality of war. Enemies, even on hard mode, are not very aggressive, and while ranged units will fire non-stop, melee units often wait their turn to attack you one at a time. In general, controls are responsive and challenges scalable based on how you prefer to enjoy combat, making action pleasantly approachable to anyone. Sound design is good, and exaggerated blood sprays or dismemberments cement the feeling of Jin as a one-man army. Quick load times mean even if you do die, you are back in the action almost immediately. The game will even often remove whatever was threatening you, and there is no penalty for dying other than your focus meter not replenishing. In fact, the stakes are so low, you quickly realize there is no sense of urgency, as success is just a matter of persistence and not skill, and failure is so brief it's forgettably painless. In addition, while the visual splendor and scenic presentation is a start, open world games over the last decade have given us a lot more to look forward to when uncovering the map. Ghost of Tsushima offers not only enemy camps and captured settlements to clear out across the land, but also random bandits or Mongol patrols will spawn to fight and increase your reputation and earn skill points. A bamboo cutting minigame can be found to improve your focus meter for special attacks, and hot springs can be found to improve your health bar. Crickets can be found to add songs to your flute. Fox dens and shrines can be discovered to increase or improve the charms you can carry, which grant a variety of perks. Side quests can not only add more world building and character development for Jin and his close allies, but also unlock new tools, armor, and weapons for his use. Beyond that, materials can be found and animals can be hunted in great abundance in order to upgrade your weapons, and monuments, flags, and flowers can be used to add cosmetic color options. Though the variety and design of the armor is very nice, as well as the stats complementing a variety of combat or utility purposes, each armor can only be customized with a small selection of specific color schemes, which is an odd restriction. To increase immersion, the screen is usually HUD-free, there is no minimap or enemy radar, wind acts like a compass to guide you to a waypoint, and birds and bugs will guide you to nearby collectibles. Granted, you still have to open your map and set a waypoint first, and on most missions, an objective marker will still show up to tell you where to go and what to do, and tutorial reminders will still pop up late in the game to hold your hand. So it's not as if conventional navigation and instructions are completely replaced with in-world guidance, but it is a step in a good direction. While it is nice that almost everything in the world counts as progress, when I quickly realized this world was not full of locations that also improve my gear and stats, but only full of locations to improve my gear and stats, the incentive to explore died almost immediately. Once the discovery is resolved, it only exists as a convenient fast travel spot from then on. In short, there is no meaningful exploration or yearning to find new things, and what you do discover, you can only use for gear or upgrades, besides the usual pointless collection items. Favoring style over substance, the game also does little to break away from the recycling habit that is common in many open-world games to stretch content by filling their empty map spaces with activities of the same nature that can feel repetitive. It is no exaggeration to say animations and locations are quite literally copy and pasted here, as when you've seen one location, you have seen them all. Once you have seen one shrine, climbed one lighthouse, written one haiku, cleared one camp, or engaged in one duel, you have done every shrine, every lighthouse, every haiku, every camp, and every duel with insignificant variations. The sheer repetition begins immediately when you realize there is nothing new to look forward to other than the level of the enemy you face and upgrades. Regarding the placement of the collectibles, you feel less like you have organically stumbled onto a natural discovery, and more like they intentionally space collectibles in between mission waypoints to break up the monotony of riding from point A to point B in uneventful but scenic silence. One of the most enjoyable things about this game is its very fast load time and very few loading screens. However, that's less impressive when you recall it's loading an empty world lacking mystery, engaging activities, or personal impact. There are rare times of candid fun, like when bandits and Mongols would spawn close to each other and fight, or when a bear would wander close to a base and kill almost everyone inside, or observing the rain and noticing how the rocks and water have no rain effects on them. Still, your choices have no impact on the overall story, including a major final one, as the world does not change or reflect based on anything you do or personally feel. A few scenic towns are memorable, but the majority are forgettably lackluster, as liberated towns and farms only visually change to add static, silent NPCs. You cannot talk to anyone in the world unless they are either going to mention a quest or nearby collectible to mark on your map, which is actually a nice way of accomplishing that. For frequent slow walking segments to hide the load times, conversation or decision points are shallow and inconsequential. Any immersion is up to the player, as the story, environments, and NPCs do not care about you or even react to you. Reputation does not impact anything, which seems like a writing oversight, as the game assumes you are always dishonorable regardless of how you personally play, which is liberating from a gameplay perspective and railroaded from a narrative one. Fortunately, combat is one of the game's stronger points, as Jin's bread and butter are his katana and tanto that he will use for open combat's heavy and light strikes and stealth combat's assassinations respectively. Jin also has a variety of tools like the bow, kunai, bombs, or poison that are all very effective, fun to use, and incredibly useful in their own rights, all of which may be upgraded. While there is no lock-on, there is still aim assist for range weapons, and more if you want it, and both Jin and enemies have a soft locking magnetism when they fight that homes in on enemies for strikes that should otherwise miss. Enemies will also magically slide towards you, and if you approach multiple foes close together, the soft locking can have Jin focusing on an unintended target, messing up your flow. Fighting a generic assortment of evolving enemies is made more interesting with a well-done dodge and parry system, and a match game for breaking the guard of enemies with one of 4 stylized fighting stances. Speaking honestly, I did not find myself strictly needing to upgrade any of the stances, even on lethal difficulty, until the 3rd island section where enemies received a substantial boost in armor and health. In the meanwhile, normal stealth gameplay and ghost tools were more than enough and satisfying to mix up. Jin can also learn a few power moves that consume his focus meter, including an invincible temporary ghost mode that instantly executes a few enemies. In many cases, when Jin approaches a few foes, he will have the opportunity to challenge them to a standoff, giving him the chance to not only reduce enemy numbers with a quick draw, but refill his focus meter at the same time. However, failing your own challenge will cost you significant health, making it a calculated risk-reward decision. Free advice: if you want to win any standoff, do it on open ground and strike when the back foot moves. I must bring up here that after a few hours of normal and hard level combat, I felt them too boring for my personal tastes, and so decided to put the game on its newer lethal difficulty that was released after launch from then on. Comparatively, while enemies can now cut you down in 1 or 2 hits depending on the attack, you can also do the same to them, and the windows for dodging and parrying have been drastically reduced. Compared to assisted, easy, normal, and hard modes, lethal not only speeds up enemies, but it exposes a few flaws in the enemy AI and battle mechanics. For example, on lower difficulties, melee enemies mostly approach you one at a time, and it's fine to play battles defensively and easy to keep track of your attacker. However, on lethal, enemies will quickly surround and attack you at once, forcing you to also be more mobile, aggressive, and disruptive in open fights. This is when you notice the game working against you, as the camera is too slow to track action, also often getting stuck on the environment. There is also no option to zoom in or out, so you cannot control situational awareness, and will often experience foes striking you from off-screen, which feels cheap. In their haste, enemies often get stuck on the environment or each other, and multiple times I have seen them wait for someone else to attack to the point where no one attacks me and they all just stare while standing still even when I attack them.
Hey, what's up? This game, by the way, is Game of the Year. What's going on? What is seriously going? How come every time I play this game, I encounter some weird AI bug? Every time I play this game, every session, we have some weird AI bug. What the flip is going on here? Wait, I totally headshotted you. Game of the year, everybody. Game of the year. What the flip?
Collision problems and problems with AI have surfaced multiple times, and not just in combat. Many times NPCs will get stuck on the environment or each other, and enemy pathing was questionable. Sometimes animations will cause odd collisions or not, and while not frequent, occasionally during both missions or freely roaming, there were times when the enemy would just halt in place and not get any closer to me, and it wasn't because I inflicted a terror status on anyone. As mentioned before, they didn't run away or attack, and could plainly see me. It was funny at first, but when it happened again and again, I suspected there was some sort of AI bug being triggered. AI was inconsistent in general, as it was cool that if you whistled for your horse, they would detect you, but then you could free prisoners right in front of them and they would not notice. Duels are both the best and worst parts of the game. Like the climbing of shrines or inputs of bamboo cutting, it is one of the few activities in the game that not only have interesting lore tied to them, but require some level of engagement from the player. On the other hand, enemies suddenly have huge health and guard bars to artificially drag out the fight, and many have health gates that will stop the fight to deliver dialogue, preventing the player from winning based on skill. The enemy also has access to the same moves and stances Jin has or can have for the game, only this time they have been made into unstoppable versions. Despite the beautiful arenas they set up the fights in to make them seem epic, the enemies relied more and more on randomizing and spamming deadly unblockable attacks with tracking properties, especially on lethal. It became long bouts of rock paper scissors, and when things become more based on luck than skill, it robs any victory any sense of personal satisfaction. While only a few challengers were really problematic this way, each duel was a unique engagement, and the creative setup and execution of many of them were something I would have preferred to see applied to more of the game. When it comes to story, there are 3 kinds of quests referred to as tales. There are 24 main story quests for Jin, 7 mythic tales that reward powerful gear or skills, and 61 tales of Tsushima that are either NPCs that ask you to clear out nearby enemies, or one of Jin's 6 companions that ask him to clear out nearby enemies and give him character development. Though the main story missions are where the most amount of interesting, fun level design and gameplay is applied, none of the trope-filled plot points or predictable dialogue of Jin's struggle will surprise you at any point. However, the side quests that have Jin dealing with and working alongside close allies or some citizens of the island have easily the best writing and genuine emotion for the whole game. Each of the supporting cast have deep-rooted personal burdens to bear because of this war, and seeing how they not only cope with it builds character for them as well as Jin, who helps them grow through it. The actions and consequences of Jin and others trying to survive or deal with challenges is approached in a mature and realistic way, and there is a lot of morally gray territory that is explored without dumbing it down to a simple good guy bad guy schism. Character motivations and interactions feel unique and believable, making the character development quests some of the most enjoyable content in the game. It's a shame that despite the effective delivery for all the cast, it's undermined by wooden animations and expressionless faces. Faces barely emote, as mouths and eyes without the eyebrows do most of the movement. Characters usually just stand and stare at each other when delivering their lines, and it's unclear whether the choice was made to hide the faces with faraway shots, shadows, and having them stand with their backs to the camera, or if all that was done because they avoided working on the faces and body language to begin with. Overall, Ghost of Tsushima made a choice of refinement versus innovation, and if you take out the collectibles and upgrade opportunities, this world is quite literally empty of things to do. It makes me wonder why they bothered making an island, instead of making an overworld map wherein one could travel to denser and more focused zones, emphasizing quality over quantity. For my final playtime, playing on lethal difficulty, I completed strictly the main story in 17 hours, though all the time spent doing side quests, uncovering everything on the map, and earning the platinum trophy brought my total time to 57 hours. There is a new game plus that was added, but while you start off with unlocked gear and cosmetics, and more challenging enemies, there are no new quests or story content added, so you would just be replaying the same game again for additional gear and cosmetics. All in all, you have fought this combat before, you have climbed these towers before, you have ridden these open fields before, and you have heard these story twists before. What transforms the experience is the stylized context, cinematic visuals, eye-catching use of colors, strong cultural theming, and heavy leaning on the samurai power fantasy. As an open world game, it's lacking in substance. As an action game, it is very fun and better than average. Though it makes some questionable choices, it is still a great option for those who do not want a very demanding action game and still want to look cool and feel strong. As a samurai game, it's the best around, for more grounded takes where you are not fighting demons, but keep in mind that it's a very small niche to begin with. Overall, it's a good game that I would like to see a follow-up to, if for no other reason than addressing the many opportunities for improvement. Thank you so much for watching this review, I hope it helped, and if you would like to hear story summaries of other games, check out a series I also produce called Recapitation. Enjoy, and I'll see you on the next battlefield.